Good day. Getting into game one, and spawning in the top left-hand corner of King's Cove, we have the German Terran player, the blue Terran, representing Mouse. It is HeRoMaRinE. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the French Protoss player, the red Protoss. It is DnS. Here we go. Once again, this was a pretty packed, pretty intense group. Of course, a lot of matches were held. Round robin, for those who are curious, is a round robin format. I know that there was a season, there was a edition of HomeStory Cup, I want to say like HomeStory Cup like 22 or 23, which did feature best of twos. But I want to say that only occurred once. That was only once really that they did dabble in it, and since then still just went back to the best of three format in the group stage. All the more matches to embrace. I think they probably also just want to avoid all the math as well. Like when there are that many best of twos, like tiebreakers or ties are a lot more commonplace and have to be taken into account and into consideration. So instead, back to the best of threes. As we're moving out, we do have our double gas opener out of HeRoMaRinE. Meanwhile, DnS going for his own gate cyber expand, standard opener out of the Protoss, and a more tech heavy opener here out of Gabe. And again, Gabe, he's typically a very versatile player in this matchup. Very versatile, can be greedy, can be economic, can be hyper aggressive, can be in your face. Is one to mix up his builds and mix up his playstyle. As with that, double gas means faster factory, delayed CC. Technically, there's potential for one base all in, but on a map as large as King's Cove, we should not be headed in that direction. We should be getting into just a command center, into a starport, into our two base setup. Not as likely to be committed. As we see Gabe scouting, checking for proxies, making sure everything's on the up and up. Un momento. So I just realized I didn't update the in-game notepad. I got you. Beautiful. But yeah, for now, we're just going to be settling in. Initially, we do have our initial Reaper Hellion production. No reactor, bear that in mind. So it's going to be a light commitment into Reaper Hellion, into the starport on the high ground. CC is on location as we speak. Gabe is just building up. From here, he can get into Widowmine production, into a Widowmine drop. He could work towards early tech labs, into early tank, early add-on swap into Banshees. Gabe has options. For now, just gaining map control. Speaking of Widowmines, there we go, Widowmine production has begun. And likewise, DnS, we have his tech of choice. It's going to be a Twilight Council, not a Stargate. So Twilight Council opener here, out of DnS. As Reaper Hellion does threaten to dive, but the army is in position. Gabe is denied. This army is designed to threaten a mineral line and to get some economic damage, and sure, he might not be able to push in towards the natural, but the Reapers, they can dive into the main and try to split apart the attention of DnS. What does he go for? So far, Gabe does hold back. Behind this, we do have our Widowmines. Two Widowmines have now arrived. And Gabe could try to bring this all together. Reapers into the main, Widowmines into the mineral line, and then Hellions threatening the main army. See how it all comes together. From the side of DnS, the gateway count is still building up. He's getting up to 3 gates. First Hellion goes down. Nice clean up here by DnS. Shuts down the Hellion. Does deflect, setting up his own third base. Here comes that mine drop towards the natural. It's on the way. As Gabe is trying to get eyes on the third base, whether or not DnS even expands. Widowmine drop coming in. And DnS, does he react in time? He does pull away. Whew. Oh no! Oh my god. that was very close. Does pull away in time. Two probes going to be going down. 3 probes even, but DnS holds. Does hold on when HeRoMaRinE does escape in the medevac. Nicely done here by Gabe. He can always come back in. And back at home, he's going to be transitioning out of this into his own tank production, Raven production as well. To do some damage, and at least is keeping DnS busy. As he is pinned, and DnS is teching. Instead of warping in and reinforcing, he's going to be teching up, getting into a bay, into charge. I would imagine forges on the horizon. There's no war prism to reinforce across the map. Much more defensive play here by DnS. Not very active. Not a very active style. We'll see if Gabe can catch him unawares with that drop. DnS does move out with his army. Remember, Blink is done, but it's only 5 Stalkers. Gabe is taking it seriously. He's getting in position. Oh! Last, he has no stim. Stalkers, they trade well. They get a Marine. DnS, he doesn't commit. There is a tank behind this. So DnS, he isn't baited. Does rotate. Getting a couple of Reapers. Meanwhile, drop into the main. HeRoMaRinE, ooh, getting 2 more probes. And he saves it again for a second time. Okay. Does save the HeRoMaRinE. Not bad. Does save it like that. Auto harass here towards the 3rd. Getting 2 more probes. 4 in total. Once again, we do see the drop rally towards the natural. HeRoMaRinE distracting with the Raven. Gets another probe. HeRoMaRinE is reset. It drops into the natural. And DnS, no! He doesn't react. Doesn't respond. Ooh, massive shot goes off. 12 probes go down. Ay, ay, ay. And with that, Gabe, he is finding himself with a nice lead. 15 workers have fallen in total. Gabe is even on workers plus mules, so Gabe is ahead. 3rd CC's on the way. And he's moving out. He is not going to be moving out. It's still alive. No shot. The HeRoMaRinE is still alive here in the medevac. The Raven, of course, as well. DnS is still kept busy. Gabe moves out. And is going for a split push. Double jump towards the natural. Main army through the center. There is an observer somewhat in position. Gabe, he scans ahead of time. DnS will barely spot the army. Here comes the Autosard once again to distract. DnS, he responds to the drop. DnS trying to get in position. The drop does unload. And pylons are going down. Cannon as well. Gabe, oh, he will lose the medevac. Oh, he will lose 1. 1 full medevac goes down. Gabe, he dives on the 3rd. Nice force fields. DnS is keeping up. Ooh. He is keeping up. We'll take some mine shots to the face. But the Colossi are in position. And DnS, he should not lose this expansion. But the dropping comes back in. Gabe, he keeps going. Does keep going. Oh, we'll take down the tanks though. Yeah, the tanks are exposed. Gabe, he does overextend. There's recall in towards the natural. DnS's economy, it's barely there. As he has been mining from the main, just now resaturating. Gabe's still rallying across. I feel like at this point, Gabe should calm down because he is throwing away quite a bit of supply. Full medevac goes down. And Gabe, he lost his tanks. He's still rallying in, running into the Colossus. So the Terran has to calm down for a moment, consolidate his forces, and get his 3rd base. So the 3rd is on the way. And DnS does survive. Still a rough position, don't get me wrong. But he is in this. As Gabe pulls away. Again, reinforcements take a long time to move out across the map because of the size of King's Cove. So Gabe has to retreat, pulls away, saturates his 3rd base, and now is gearing up towards the mid game. We have the 2nd starport on the way. This should be for Viking production to deal with these Colossus. As the Autosars, they just keep coming in. This is getting the Vikings. Likewise, Ghost Academy is on the way as well. That should be for, of course, the Ghosts, for EMPs. And DnS has some recovering to do. Now, what I will say, coming into this, on the one hand, yes, DnS is behind economically, but now that he has 3 Colossus, what does that mean? That means disruptors. He now has access to disruptor production, and even if you're down 20, 30, 40 army supply with a handful of Novas, DnS, he can bounce back. So he has potential to recover in this game. Likewise, isn't just with the Purification Novas, but with Zealot realm buys, with Zealot drops, with the War Prison Harass as well. There are opportunities to recover, to get some counter damage, and to even things up. But what I will say, coming into this, Gabe is ahead, for sure. He is ahead. The pressure is on DnS to bounce back, to recover. We go. Gabe is being active. Does push towards the left. I believe the Observer barely does miss the army, but there are some scouting Zealots here. As Gabe moves out, HeRoMaRinE moves in. And SCVs are going down. Boys are being pulled. Likewise, they'll take skirt by the main army. Gabe does actually respond. For a moment, but he commits anyway. And which means Gabe is losing a lot of SCVs. Yeah, we have 12 SCVs going down already. Zealots in the main, 3 in the natural, in the third. 15 workers falling. Gabe, he's committed. Even forced to lift up the CCs. He's pushing in. We have 2 disruptors so far. Vikings, they go ham. They do catch 1 Colossus. 1 Colossus does fall. Nova goes up. Up! Big connection! Novas, they do connect. Nicely done here for DnS, but the 4th base is still going to go down across the map. 28 SCVs falling. Gabe, his economy is being crippled here. Takes down the expansion, that is true, but the Viking count has been reset. And DnS, he's holding. He's holding. He has a better economy. DnS, he is ahead. This move that had to end the game had to kill DnS, but it didn't. It killed the base. That's not good enough. And we spoke about it. We spoke about how to come back in this game. One with Purification Novas, which did connect very well. The other, Zealot realm buys, which likewise also just wreaked havoc. Again, that was 30 SCVs falling. And with that, Gabe, the lead that he once had isn't quite there anymore. What does he have left? He has Medivacs, he has 1 Ghost, he has some Bio, that is true. But DnS, he's back in this. Let's go. The comeback. As Gabe, he moves out. Does attempt to, is attempting to resaturate or reestablish his 4th base. Planetary is morphed in. Gabe just pumping out nothing but SCVs. Getting to his 2-2. And what's important as well after that fight, DnS, he only lost 1 Colossus. Only 1 Colossus, not a single disruptor went down. DnS, he has maintained his high-tech army. And as a result, this is still anyone's game. Still up to anyone. 4th base getting resaturated. Back up and running. DnS can now be active once again. KB does have some spotted Marines. DnS getting a 5th. Does get a 5th base. Takes off a couple of Stalkers. And once again, as Gabe moves out, HeRoMaRinE moves in. And once again, SCVs are falling. Not too many though. This time Gabe, he actually comes back home. He races back. He should be able to clean this up without losing too much. 2 SCV kills. But again, all it takes is a handful of Zealots and they can just annihilate a mineral line. So Gabe, he has to take it seriously. Especially after his losses so far this game. At this point, I would like to see a Temple Archives and Storm. There are a lot of disruptors, that is true, but we need a buffer for the army. Whether it's Zealots, Archons, Storms, potentially another Colossus. Okay, we have the answer. Double Immortal production. Immortals are on the way. That will help. Here comes the extra warp in. DnS is keeping up. Gabe going for a quad drop across the map. Head towards the natural. Is going for a drop. DnS is somewhat in position to scout. He does have an observer and some Zealots. He may spot this. Observer spots the main army. This game moves through the center. DnS with some Hail Mary Novas. Let's go. Just blindly shooting in the dark. Oh, HeRoMaRinE does get a ghost. Main army pushing in. DnS out of position. He's not here. He doesn't spot the drop. DnS otherwise preoccupied. Scan ahead of time. Gabe, he sees nothing is here. Denies the warp in. There's the recall. River goes down. Very nice pickup. There's a recall back home. Disruptors that were left behind. DnS he's holding so far. There's a pop-up. We get some okay connections. They merely okay. Vikings, they land behind the disruptors. And Gabe is collapsing on the army. Takes out the immortals. Reinforces though they have arrived. Disruptors, they're saved. At the same time, Gabe, they're pushing into the natural once again. Remember, recall's on cooldown. 5th base goes down as well. And DnS, does he turn around or does he commit? He has somewhat of an army. The Colossus is exposed. Gabe, he starts at forward. And he takes out at least the Immortal. The Colossus as well. Nova's a try to pop up. But the splits here from Gabe, they're too much. And Gabe looks like he has done it. He pulls DnS apart, takes out every single disruptor. And takes out the natural as well. This has been a very, very close game. But losing all those disruptors, I don't know if DnS can really take a fight. Gonna try to though. He's moving in. He's losing his bases. Losing his economy. DnS, takes an EMP to the face. Okay, can't push in. Not against so many Marauders. It's not gonna happen. Nova goes up. Gets a Marine. Disruptor gets caught out once again. A bit of miscontrol there from DnS. Colossus gets chased down, and Gabe, he has momentum on his side. This time he's not going to lose it. He just sends it across the map. Just trying to hold on. The Zealots, they can trade well here. Oh my god, he gets a full medevac. Takes down some of the Vikings as well. Drop coming back in. Killing more probes. DnS still very much so committed, still very much so all in at this point. But Gabe is up in supply. He has plenty at home. Marauder finally goes down. See that he moves out. Ooh, takes the mine shot to the face. Takes down a ghost, but alas, the concave is too good. Gabe, he does land his Vikings. Never grazes the army. And Gabe, he holds. He does hold. He's got his planetary. Is standing. Backup planet's 5th base is on the way. Also a planetary as well. HeRoMaRinE, they will do nothing. And live production has begun. Soul DT waddles in, but there is detection. A bunker as well. Gabe, he's ready. Dropping back in to knock down a natural that doesn't exist. Has not been rebuilt. DnS needs time to recover. Now, once again, deja vu. We've been here before. Can DnS recover in this game? He can. Once again, with HeRoMaRinE. Unfortunately, because of these planetaries, the 4th and 5th base are very much so secure. So, HeRoMaRinE is going to be less effective here. Potentially, mass DT warp-ins can take down a planetary, but it's a big commitment, and you do need an economy to pull that off. So HeRoMaRinE is going to be less effective, at least at the 4th and 5th. They can still hit the 3rd, don't get me wrong, but there's a bunker in position. Likewise, Novas can shut down the main army as well. That is true. But now there are Liberators. You know, that does, in a way, hard counter the Disruptor. As the Freedom Zones are set up, and the ground army gets bullied back. As you can see, Gabe just leapfrogging forward with those Liberation Zones. Nova goes up, good connection. Not bad. This Gabe is moving forward. The likewise going off, doesn't quite get it. DnS, he commits to the fight. At the same time, Zelda run back across the map with their reinforcements back at home. Gabe, he defends. Oh, meanwhile, his ground army is being cleaned up. Not quite though. Yeah, GG gets called. DnS, he runs out of steam, and Gabe takes game number 1. GG. GG will play the game does take a lead in the series, but again, that was a very close game that was very back and forth. Initially, Gabe, he pulled DnS apart. 100%, he pulled him apart. He was able to eviscerate the economy, able to just, yeah, cripple DnS. But DnS, he recovered. Very impressive with the Zealot run-bys, with the disruptor connections as well. DnS, he was down 40 supply, and then he recovered. And suddenly, we had a more back and forth. In the end, he was still torn apart, though, as Gabe was able to catch him off guard. Basically, the game-winning move for Gabe, if you remember, was his push towards the right-hand side, where he forced the initial recall, and then DnS moved out of position once again. And Gabe, he just kept pushing, kept pulling DnS apart. Unfortunately, it wasn't just the fact that DnS was out of position. More importantly, it was the fact that DnS had nothing to scout. He didn't know that a drop was coming. He didn't know that the army was going to be hitting the natural. He just was caught completely off guard. And with that, again, your recalls are quite limited. And did spend the one that he had. And from there, that leads us into game number 2. Leads us into game 2. And Gabe, he's up 1-0. As game 2 is going to be on El Dorado. Okay. One of the more unorthodox maps in the map pool. I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. Here we go. Spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of El Dorado, we have the German Terran player, the Blue Terran, leading the series 1-0 for Mouse. It is HeRoMaRinE. And spawning in the top or in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the French Protoss player. We have the Red Protoss down in the series. We'll see if he can bounce back. It is DnS. We go. So I could be settling in. As a reminder, last game, Gabe did open up with a double gas opener into a Widowmine drop, of course. Did very well with the initial Widowmine drop, with the Raven harass as well. We spoke earlier how Gabe did take a massive lead in the previous game. He did so off the back of multi-pronged aggression. Of course, DnS did recover from that, which was very impressive. And again, even at the time I was mentioning it just to mention it, wasn't quite convinced that it would occur. But I wouldn't be opposed to Gabe opening up in a similar fashion. As once again, double gas. Double gas going into the factory. Slightly more tech heavy here from Gabe. And we'll see if he deviates or if he commits once again. So last game he did go into Reaper Hellion production into the eventual Widowmine drop. From here, we could see him go into, say, Banshee play, early tank drop. The rush distance by air is quite short on this map. We could even see DnS go into a Stargate opener into Phoenixes. But now is the Cybercore, and once it's done, we'll get into our tech, whether it's Twilight Council, Stargate, or Robo. DnS will have options. They'll have options. Oh, okay, as it is going to be the initial Reaper into a Reactor. With this, we could get into Reactor Reaper Hellion, so a bigger commitment to earlier aggression. We'll see if a Gabe does commit into that Reaper production. As the initial Reaper does poke in. We have the tech of choice, going to be a Stargate opener, as we did mention. Short rush distance by air, so Stargate play makes sense on El Dorado. As Reaper does get one probe, doesn't quite get eyes on the tech though. Reaper pulls away, and Gabe does not start Hellion production. He goes and he rushes into a tech lab. Much earlier tech lab here on the factory than the previous game, as this time he makes 0 Hellions. Just straight for the tech, straight for the add-on. Likewise, no additional Reapers, just Marine production instead. So from here, we can go for an early tank into an early medevac into a tank drop. Otherwise, we could be seeing an add-on swap. Okay, safety cyclone here from HeRoMaRinE. Bearing in mind that Gabe did not see the early tech, so this cyclone is actually going to prove quite useful to him, especially against the eventual Oracle or Phoenix opener. Gabe, he commits, he scouts, he knows. He does get eyes on the Stargate, he gets eyes on the Phoenix. He's aware. Reaper's going to go down, but it's worth it. It is worth it here for Gabe. Is still making the initial medevac. Bold move. Usually we would see Cyclone into Viking, so that Gabe could secure himself, but this is much more assertive and much more aggressive here. Going for the medevac, going for the move out. So here we go, 4 Marines and a Cyclone. Hoping to catch out the Phoenix. As Phoenix does get eyes on the drop, we'll slow it down. Forces the unload. And the longer this goes on, the better it is for DnS as he's slowing down the push. Lock on here on the Cyclone. Ooh, lock on gets broken, just barely. Clutch moves there out of DnS. Breaks the lock on, saves the Phoenix. Meanwhile, Gabe, he's rallying across the map. Medevac barely survived. And he's going to be threatening that third. Pushing towards the natural. Upper ramp into a concave. We had some okay force fields, but 1 Marine goes down. A little bit lackluster. Didn't quite lock down the army, as DnS did miss the Marines. Likewise, a lot of damage dealt here to the Phoenix. Liberator has arrived. HeRoMaRinE, he's committing that much harder here. Jesus. Reinforcements are caught out, but Gabe, he is committed. Once again, there is deflected. Stalkers, they dive in, they shut down the lib. And now the army's going to be cleaned up. Lift here on the Cyclones. And the army will fall. Just see Gabe trying to reinforce, and he will take down another Phoenix. Oh my god. Nice Valley here from the Terran. But DnS holds. He does hold. He will expand, getting his 3rd base. The goal here for Gabe wasn't just to trade well, but was to contain the Protoss on 2 bases. Last was unable to do so. Didn't quite pull it off. Another Cyclone gets caught. Back at home, what is it to defend? And no bunker, the natural is completely exposed. There's no stim, there's no combat shields, but there is a Cyclone and a Viking. And DnS, he doesn't test his luck. He backs off with his army and only sticks around with the Phoenixes. Doesn't quite commit. But he's on the way. Gonna be forced back. Go. Yes, he does pull away, throwing down extra gateways. Yeah, it's just building up here towards charge, towards those upgrades. That's a massive gateway explosion. DnS looks like he might be staying on a lower gas count here. Just reinforced with charge lots. Now this is going to be ideal, especially if Gabe is going to be active and aggressive. Gabe is building up. We have stim, we have combat shields, all on the horizon. Eventually, Gabe can be moving out. And DnS going for a splash damage of choice. This time, no Colossus. This time, Storm. Double Archives on the way. Medevacs have arrived. Terran army moves out. Doesn't quite get the Phoenix. Question becomes, is Gabe going to commit? Now just posturing. Just posturing, waiting for a +1. DnS setting up for a proxy gateway, setting up for harass. Likewise, Gabe, we now confirm saturation at the 3rd. Does confirm. Army supplies are quite close. Storm has yet to be researched. That's a little bit concerning. There's the Temple Archives. There's our Storm. Just Archons. Ooh, and there might not be Storm period here. The Bay is on the way for DnS. Here we go. Gabe is moving out. DnS, he is not skipping his warpins though. So that's also reinforcing. DnS, he does miss the move out. Just now spawn the army. Just now runs into it. And if these Widowmines, if they connect, they can just shut down the Zealots. It's a big if though. Force will say bye time. First Widowmine goes down. Viking as well. And DnS, even though he does force field the ramp, he can't really engage with the army. But here comes the warp in. Zealots into the main. We saw in game 1 that these Zealots, they did bring DnS back into game 1. And the mass lifts. He lifts every single Widowmine. The Widowmines, they do nothing. Charge as they collapse on the army. And DnS, he breaks through, and that's at the same time, SCVs are going down. 14 of them. 14 SCVs do fall. Gabe is in trouble. Ooh. As looks like there was a bit of a pause. There was some latency going on. Regardless, DnS will just chase across the map. And Gabe just doesn't have much to defend. There are some Widowmines though. Oh my god, jeez. Massive connections. The Zealots, they just evaporate, but there's still more. There's still more behind this. Nice kiting from Gabe. You see DnS running out of steam, running out of units. But GG gets called as Gabe is broken, warping into the main, and DnS ties up the series at 1-1. GG. GG, well played. We are going to the ace match. Again, Gabe, he was being very active, very assertive with his army, but that was an incredible engagement there from DnS to be able to lift every single Widowmine. Unfortunately, Gabe, even though he lost the Widowmine ahead of time, he didn't realize that there was an observer over the army. If he had scanned, if he had sniped the observer, I'm pretty sure that we would have seen a very different outcome to that fight at least. I don't think it would have gone anywhere near as well in favor of DnS, but alas, the observer was not seen or was not spotted by Gabe. With that, the Widowmines did nothing, and at the same time, of course, we had the Zealot counterattack as well, right? We had the reinforcements being pinned back home, SCVs falling as well, did force Gabe into an all-in position. Did force him all in, and with that, we're going to game 3. We're going to the ace match. Let's go. And we'll see how this story ends. Will it go the way of DnS or HeRoMaRinE? Let's go. As game 3 is going to be on Amygdala, one of the larger maps in the map pool. And we'll see if we end up in a longer game status. Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Amygdala, we have the German Terran player, the blue Terran representing Mouse, being forced into the ace match. We'll see if he can recover and bounce back. It is HeRoMaRinE. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponents. We have the red Protoss player from the land of France, tying up the series 1-1 and bringing us to game 3, bringing us to the ace match. Can he keep going? It is DnS. Go. So we do find ourselves on Amygdala. Again, Amygdala, one of the larger maps in the map pool, not as large as King's Cove or Neon-Violet Square or even Abyssal Reef by any means, but still a much more macro-oriented map, as it allows players to settle into the 2, 3, and even 4 base economy in a somewhat comfortable fashion, somewhat at least. Again, the map does change quite a bit as it progresses throughout to the mid game into the late game as the rocks get knocked down. Likewise, the skull base can be very difficult to defend. A lot of it comes down to how active you are, how much map control you have to take advantage of that gold. As a result, you can very quickly snowball out of control. Once you get the gold base up running, if you're able to hold on to it, it can definitely just propel you into a win. But we'll see. We'll see how our players do adjust. As a reminder, last game, DnS did mix it up and did open Stargate. Game 1 was the Twilight Council. Game 3, Robo. What do you have for us? What do you have? As we have the answer, Stargate. And again, usually it's safer to go for a Stargate opener on some of these larger maps just because you have more freedom. You're not going to be punished anywhere near as hard. What you're vulnerable to when you go for a Stargate opener is early game aggression. The early game timings, all-ins as well. Just because Phoenixes, they're quite limited in how they can defend against that with their limited lifts and pickups. Of course, NG Overcharge does help with that now, so it is more effective than it once was. True. Not wrong. But this is going to be settling in. Gabe, he pokes forward, and Gabe does get eyes on the Stargate. He is aware. Gabe is aware, back at home, getting to his own 1-1-1. Initial Reaper into Widowmine. Just the one Widowmine here from Gabe into an early add-on into Cyclone production once again. I mean, now that there's a Stargate play, we should be seeing Cyclone into Viking production. Last game, if you remember, Gabe went Cyclone into Medevac, into drop play, into an early move out, and once again, another Medevac. Gabe, he likes to be active. He likes to be in the face of the Protoss. Okay, fair enough. We'll see if this is a little bit more effective. If you remember, in game number 2 on El Dorado, as Gabe tried to move out with his drop, he was intercepted. He had to unload, and his drop was delayed quite heavily because of the aggression of DnS. Once again, DnS does confirm the production. He's aware of the Cyclones. He's aware that there's something coming out of the starport, but again, for all he knows, it could be in Viking. Doesn't have to be a Medevac. So DnS isn't completely certain as to what's going on. As Hallucination does confirm the Medevac, there's going to be a Viking follow-up. And now that DnS is aware of the Medevac, we can see him being active to try to catch the drop. We'll see if he can. As Gabe doesn't move out ahead of time, he actually stays with the main army. He stays back home. Cyclone is spotted. Viking as well. DnS is gearing up towards a very committed move out. He's just waiting for the tank. And he's going to have a lot of DPS available here. A lot of energy on the Medevac as well. And there we go, the boys are being pulled, a handful of them. Ooh, first Phoenix goes down, and Gabe is committed. And we spoke earlier about how when you open up Phoenix like this in PvT, you do leave yourself vulnerable to these early move outs. I'm pretty sure that's why Gabe committed with the Liberator push in game number 2, and why he's committing here as well with these tanks. And as we're seeing here, it's because these Phoenixes, they cannot engage, and when they do, what can they do? They can lift the Cyclone, true, they can lift one Marine at a time, but with all this anti-air, the Phoenixes, they can just be targeted down. As tanks are getting within range of the natural. Okay, within range of the gateway. Okay, pushing forward. Oh, it does catch a Phoenix. Yeah, a bit of a misrally here from DnS. Phoenix goes down. Gateway's under fire. Bunkers on the way. You can see DnS trying to catch reinforcements. As the Phoenixes, they cannot engage with the main army. Ooh, bit of friendly fire. One of the bunkers does go down. Another goes down as well. Phoenix is coming in from behind. Coming in for the lift. Oh no! The mine shot! Oh my god. Once again, some rough pathing here from DnS. Takes the mine shot to the face. Now the Phoenix falls. They go for the lift here on the Cyclone. Cyclone goes down. That's HeRoMaRinE. He is pushing in. Slowly moving forward. DnS is on a third base, but no saturation. And Gabe is getting into the mineral line. DnS just trying to muster up some kind of army here. He's got 4 stalkers on the ground. It's not enough. The bunkers are done. And the bunkers have completed. Probes are falling. Once in, you can see DnS trying to get on top of those tanks, but they're protected by the Widowmine and by the bunkers. DnS, you just can't touch the tanks. Does get a Viking, but the base goes down. The natural has fallen. And this is just too much. This is game-ending damage. As HeRoMaRinE is snowballing out of control with the 2 base all in. We see DnS responding with a Dark Shrine. Bold move. There is potential with the Dark Shrine, but oh no, he gets cornered. There's no way out for these Stalkers. Remember, there is no blink. Every Stalker does fall. And from here, Gabe can either keep pushing into the main or rotate towards the third. Gabe has options. And he's far enough ahead where he can do either at this point. He's up to 56 SCVs. Has plenty to work with. DnS threatening a dive. Once again, zoned away. We can see that our Templar waddling across map, but there's detection. No, there's a turret. Oh god. And GG gets called. Gabe will take the series 2-1, taking down DnS. GG. GG, well played. Gabe will take it. I mean, Gabe, he was the favorite player coming into this, but I'll be honest, there is a world out there where DnS tours, where DnS, he wins 2-0. If you missed out on it, I do recommend the VODs. Game 1 was very close. Game 1 could have gone either way. If you recall, that was on King's Cove. It was a crazy game and very back and forth. It did swing one way, then the other once again. In the end, it did go the way of Gabe, just barely. But there was definitely good opportunities there for DnS to recover and to bounce back, and I mean, even was ahead at times as well. Oh, but with that comeback, HeRoMaRinE, he does take it, does take down DnS, and GG. GG, well played. We'll claim the series, and that is going to lead us into our next matchup. Here we go. Do have our next matchup up ahead of us here. It is going to be a ZVP between some of the other players in this group. I'm going to be featuring a player that we've already done here in the first series. It is going to be Mana versus not Gabe, but Rainer. Let's go.